Hello, my name is James. I am 29 years old and I'm from Colombia. I want to tell you my story. I want to share my amazing dream with you. You can read my story and learn a lot with me. A few months ago, I lost everything. I used all my money to start a business. I worked very hard every day. I worked day and night. I wanted to be successful. But one day everything went wrong. The business failed. I had no money. I had no job. My bank account was empty. I felt very sad. I thought I disappointed my family. I could not sleep. I could not eat. I asked myself, why did I do this? Why did I lose everything? I was angry and ashamed. I felt like my life was over. One evening, my mother sat next to me. She looked at me and said, "James, you are not a child, but you are still young. Your life is not over. Stop blaming yourself. Forget the past. Ask yourself, what can you do now? What makes you happy?" In that moment, something inside me changed. I realized that a mother's words have the power to bring her child back to life. Then I remembered something. I had a dream, but I was too scared to follow it. I loved cooking. I always wanted to be a chef, but I was afraid. I worried about what people would say. I wanted people to respect me, and that's why I started a business. But the business failed. Now I had nothing to lose. It was time to follow my dream. I always loved cooking, but if I wanted to be a great chef, I needed to learn from the best. The best restaurants were not in my country. I had to go to another country. I needed a new start. I made the biggest decision of my life. I decided to move to the UK, United Kingdom. But how? I had no money, no job, no English, and no plan. In this story, I will tell you everything. How did I save money? Why did I choose the UK? What happened at the airport? And what was my biggest surprise when I arrived? Keep watching until the end. This story might change your life. At first, I thought about different countries. The USA was too expensive. Australia was too far. But the UK was perfect. London had everything: famous restaurants, great food, and a visa for workers. I researched day and night. I learned that many UK restaurants hire chefs from other countries. I also found something important. The UK has a visa called the Skilled Worker Visa. This visa helps people work in the UK if they have a job offer. But I had a big problem. I did not speak English well. How would I pass interviews? How would I work in an English-speaking kitchen? I had to learn English fast. But how could I go to the UK with no money? I had no job and no savings. So I did three things. First, I stopped spending money on things I didn't need. No more eating at restaurants, no more shopping. I saved every penny. Second, I took a small job. I worked in a local cafe, washing dishes and helping in the kitchen. It was not my dream, but it gave me some money. Third, I sold things I didn't need: my old laptop, extra clothes, and even my bicycle. I sold everything I could to get some money. After 3 months, I finally had enough for my plane ticket and some small payments. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start my journey. Finally, the day arrived. I stood at the airport, holding my ticket. My heart was beating fast. This was my first time flying to another country, and I was very nervous. Then my first problem came. At immigration, the officer asked me something in English, but I didn't understand. He repeated the question. I panicked. My hands felt sweaty. I tried to answer, but my words didn't come out right. "Sir, can you repeat that?" the officer said. I took a deep breath and tried my best to explain why I was traveling. The officer was silent for a moment. Then he stamped my passport. I was in. But that moment taught me something important. If I couldn't understand simple English at the airport, how would I live in London? How would I become a chef? At that moment, I knew that learning English wasn't just important. It was necessary. Without English, I couldn't survive in the UK. I needed a plan. So, on the plane, I made a decision. From that moment, I would learn English seriously. But how? I didn't have money for expensive classes. I needed a way to learn by myself. When I arrived in London, I had the biggest surprise of my life. As soon as I got off the plane at Heathrow Airport, I felt excited but also scared. I was finally in the UK, but I wasn't ready for what happened next. The airport was huge, with signs everywhere in English: baggage claim, immigration, customs. People walked fast and talked loudly. I heard English all around me. Some people spoke so quickly that I couldn't understand a single word. When I reached immigration, the officer asked me something. I panicked. He repeated, "What is the purpose of your visit?" I only understood the word purpose, but not the full sentence. I guessed and said, "Tourist?" The officer looked at me with a serious face. "Tourist? How long will you stay?" he asked. I didn't know what to say. My visa was for work, but I hadn't found a job yet. I didn't move. I didn't know what to do. "Sir, do you speak English?" he asked. I quickly said yes, but inside I knew the truth. I didn't know enough English to live here. The officer took a deep breath, checked my papers, and finally stamped my passport. I was in the UK, but my real challenges were just beginning. When I walked outside, everything looked different. I saw big red buses everywhere. People walked on the left side of the street. The cars had their driving wheels on the right side. It felt so strange to me. Everyone moved so quickly and no one smiled at me. I needed a taxi. I saw a black London cab and got in. The driver had a strong British voice. "Where to?" he asked. I had an address written down, so I just showed him. I was too scared to talk. The whole drive, I just looked outside. Beautiful old buildings, big stores, and lots of people. I finally arrived at my small rented room in East London. The place was small and expensive, but I had no choice. I was finally in the UK, but I felt very alone. The next day, I decided to look around. I walked to a nearby store to buy food. Inside, I saw many products I had never seen before. Everything was in English, no other language. A worker at the store asked me, "You all right there, mate?" I didn't understand what he meant. Did he think something was wrong with me? I just smiled and walked away. Then I reached the checkout. The cashier scanned my items and asked, "Do you need a bag?" I didn't understand her. She said it 3 times. I panicked and just nodded. She gave me the bag. I left the store feeling embarrassed and upset. This was simple English, but I still had trouble. How would I ever become a chef here? That night I made a choice. Enough is enough. I have to learn English fast. I created a plan. First, listening practice for 4 hours a day. I started listening to British podcasts and YouTube videos every morning while eating breakfast. At first, I didn't understand anything, but I didn't stop. Then I practiced speaking for 2 hours every day. I talked to myself in the mirror. I repeated phrases I heard in videos. I made myself think in English. Next, I read and wrote for 3 hours every day. I bought an English newspaper and read one article each day. I wrote a journal in English, even if my sentences were simple. For conversation practice, I spent 1 hour every day talking to people. I went to cafes and tried to order in English. I asked strangers for directions just to practice speaking. I pushed myself to learn, no excuses. As I started going out more, I noticed that the UK had a lot of strange and interesting things. The weather changed quickly. One minute it's sunny, the next it's raining. People always carry an umbrella, even if the sun is out. British people love tea. Fancy a cuppa means, would you like some tea? If you don't drink tea, they look at you like you are strange. British people also say sorry, even if it's not their fault. For example, if I accidentally touched someone, he would say, "Oh, sorry, mate," instead of getting angry. I learned some funny British words. You all right? Means, how are you? Not, are you okay? Cheers means thank you, not just for toasting drinks. And it's proper cold means it's really cold. Every day I learned new things. One day I went to a bakery and saw something called scones. I pointed and asked, "What is this?" The lady smiled and said, "That's a scone, love. Do you want some clotted cream with it?" I got scared. What is clotted cream? I didn't know. Instead of asking, I just said, "No, thank you." Later, I learned that clotted cream is the best part. I missed it. After 2 months of practice, something great happened. I went to a coffee shop, ordered without being scared, and had a small chat with the worker. For the first time, I didn't feel nervous. I walked out of the shop smiling. I can do this. My English wasn't perfect yet, but I could handle it. That was just the start. After 2 months in the UK, I felt a little better. I could order coffee without being afraid, understand simple conversations, and even use some British words. But there was still one big problem. I had no job. I came to the UK to be a chef. But how could I work in a restaurant if my English wasn't good? A kitchen is a busy place. Chefs shout orders. Waiters move fast. If I didn't understand fast, I might lose my job. But I had no choice. I had to try. I started going into restaurants and asking for a job. First, I went to a small Australian restaurant. "Hello, are you looking for workers?" I asked the manager. He looked at me and said, "Do you have experience?" "Yes, I worked in Colombia," I replied. "Okay, but can you speak good English?" he asked. I paused for a moment. I am still learning," I said. He shook his head. "Sorry, we need someone who speaks better English." I was turned away. I tried many places, an Italian cafe, a fast food shop, a restaurant that serves steaks. Every time the answer was the same. Your English isn't good enough. I felt bad. What if I can't find a job? I thought. One day I went into a small British pub in East London. A man stood behind the bar. "Excuse me, are you hiring?" I asked. He looked at me for a moment and asked, "Do you have experience?" "Yes, I worked in a restaurant in Colombia," I said. He asked, "How is your English?" I took a deep breath. "It's not perfect, but I will work hard," I said. He smiled. "Okay, come to the kitchen." I followed him inside. The kitchen was small, hot, and busy. A young chef was cooking burgers. A server was moving quickly, shouting orders. My job was simple. I cleaned tables, washed dishes, and helped the cooks. It wasn't the job I dreamed of, but it was a start. I earned £1,300 a month, working 30 hours a week. But life in the UK was expensive, and soon I saw that I was just trying to survive. Every month I had to pay for a lot of things. House payment, £600 for a very small shared room in a house with 3 other people. Phone and internet, £40 per month. Bus and train, £100 to go to work and other places. Food, £220 per month for basic things like pasta, rice, eggs, and greens. Other costs, £190 for small things like eating out, washing clothes, and soap. Total costs, £1,180 per month. That meant I only had £150 left at the end of the month. And sometimes surprise costs would take that too. It felt like I was working just to stay alive, not to enjoy life. But money was not my biggest problem. It was English. At work, I understood almost nothing. The chef spoke fast and used words I had never heard before. "Pass me the food grabber." What is a food grabber? "We're running out of supplies." Supplies? Like money? "Put the food on the plate, quick." Put food on a plate? I felt lost. Every day I made mistakes. The chefs got mad. The waiters got upset. I tell they thought I was not smart. One day I dropped a big plate full of drinks because I didn't understand what the waiter said. The manager looked at me and took a deep breath. "James, if you don't get better at English, you can't keep this job." His words hit me hard. I knew he was right. I had no choice. I had to learn English well. I needed to train my ears, so I started listening to British people as much as I could. I listened to customers at the restaurant and tried to understand their orders. I played YouTube videos of British people talking about daily life. After a few weeks, I started to understand small words. "Do you want?" "That's okay." "Can I get?" It was slow, but I was getting better. Talking was my biggest fear. I made myself talk to people, even when I made mistakes. I said "Good evening, sir" to customers. I asked the chef, "How do you make this dish?" I talked to my roommates at home. I felt shy every time I got something wrong, but I told myself, if I don't try, I won't get better. I carried a small notebook everywhere. When I heard a new word, I wrote it down. Plate up, put food on a plate. Stock, cooking ingredients. Tongs, a tool to pick up food. And other words like those. At night, I read my notes and said the words out loud. One evening after work, a man in his 40s sat at the bar. He had nice clothes and was drinking tea, not beer. He looked like a polite man. I gave him his food and said, "Here your meal, sir." He smiled. "It's 'here is your meal,' but close enough." I stopped. He corrected me, but in a kind way. "Sorry, my English is not perfect," I said. He laughed. "Don't worry, I was like you once." He moved to the UK from India 20 years ago. His name was Mr. Singh, and he had a big hotel business. That night he talked to me for 2 hours and gave me advice that changed my life. He said, "The secret to learning English fast is this: think in English. Do not translate. Just learn and absorb the language like a child." That conversation changed the way I learned. Before, if I saw an apple, I thought maçã in Portuguese or manzana in Spanish. Now I just thought apple. Instead of translating, I tried to make sentences in English naturally. I described everything around me in English, even in my head. Example: before I said, "Okay, I need to buy tomatoes." But what is buy in English? But now I say, "I need to buy tomatoes. Let's go to the supermarket." At first it was hard, but slowly I stopped translating in my head. One evening I was cleaning a table when a customer asked, "Hey, mate, where are you from?" I answered easily, "I'm from Colombia, but I live in London now." He smiled and said, "Nice. Your English is really good." I felt so happy. For the first time, someone said my English was good. After 4 months in the UK, my manager saw that I was improving. "James, you are doing great. I'm giving you more hours." Now I worked 40 hours per week and earned £1,700 per month. This meant I can save some money, buy better food, take an English course. 4 months had passed since I arrived in the UK. My English was much better, but I still had more to learn. I was no longer the nervous guy who didn't understand simple words, but I wasn't fluent yet. I could talk to my coworkers and customers, but sometimes I still had trouble. One night after work, I sat alone in my little room. I looked around. There was a bed, a small table, a suitcase, and my notebook with new English words. That is my life. I picked up my phone and saw my mom's number. I hadn't called her in weeks. I missed her a lot. I took a deep breath and called her. "Hi, Mama." When I heard her voice, I felt tears in my eyes. "James, my son, how are you?" "I'm okay, Mama. Just tired. Working a lot." "Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping okay?" I smiled. Even though I was an adult, she still worried about me like I was a child. "Yes, Mama, don't worry." Then she asked the question I didn't want to answer. "Are you happy, James?" I didn't know what to say. Happy, I was just trying to survive. I was getting better, but was I happy? I stayed quiet. She noticed. "Listen, my son," she said softly. "You came to the UK to follow your dreams. Don't forget why you started. I believe in you." Her words touched my heart. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about her words. Don't forget why you started. I came to the UK to become a chef, not a cleaner or a waiter. A chef. It was time to move to the next level. The next day at work, I did something brave. I went to the head chef, Mr. Harris. He was a serious man. "Sir, I want to learn to cook." He looked at me and said, "You want to be a chef?" "Yes, sir. Cooking is my dream." He laughed and said, "You can't just come into a kitchen and be a chef. It takes years." "I know, sir. I will work hard. I will do anything," I said. He looked at me and said, "Okay, you can help in the kitchen during your breaks. But if you make a mistake, you are out." I was very happy. This was my chance. For the next 2 months, I worked hard. I washed dishes and cleaned tables. During my breaks, I helped in the kitchen. I cut onions, peeled potatoes, and stirred sauces. The chef shouted at me. It was very hot. I made mistakes, but I didn't stop. At home, I watched cooking videos on YouTube. I read recipes. I practiced cutting vegetables. Slowly, I got better. One night, Mr. Harris called me. "James, come here." I went to him, feeling nervous. "Tell the chefs this order," he said, and gave me a paper. I looked at the paper. It said, "Table 7. 1 beef Wellington, medium rare. 1 sea bass, no sauce. 2 chicken risottos." I turned to the chefs and said it. I said it right, with no mistakes. The chefs looked at me and started cooking. That's when I knew. I could speak English well now. I was thinking in English. That night I walked home with a big smile on my face. I did it. I learned English. 2 weeks later, Mr. Harris gave me a big test. "James, tomorrow the restaurant owner is coming. I want you to cook a dish for him." I stopped. "Me? Cooking? For the owner? Are you sure? You have worked hard. Show me what you can do," he said. I couldn't believe it. This was my chance. That night I planned everything. I chose a dish that was special to me, sancocho, a Colombian dish. It was my mom's favorite food. The next evening I stood in the kitchen, my heart beating fast. The owner was sitting at a table. The whole restaurant was watching. I took a deep breath and started cooking. I worked hard and put my love into the dish. When it was ready, I put it in front of the owner. He took one bite, then another. Then he looked at me and said, "This is amazing." Everyone in the restaurant clapped. Mr. Harris smiled. "Good job, James. You are not an assistant anymore. You are a chef." That night I called my mom. "Mom, I did it. I'm a chef." She cried. "I'm so proud of you, my son." Tears came to my eyes, too. I did it. A year later, I saved enough money to open my own small food stall. I sold Colombian street food. It was a success. Soon I grew bigger. My small stall became a small restaurant. People loved my food. I was living my dream. One day I stood outside my restaurant and looked at the sign. I smiled. I started with nothing. No money, no English, no hope. Now I was a chef, a business owner, a success. I called my mom and said, "Mom, when are you coming to London? I want to cook for you." I wasn't the man who washed dishes, didn't know much English, and didn't have money anymore. Now I was a chef and owner. Every morning I woke up in my own apartment. It was nice with a view of the river. No more small rooms or broken things. I had a team of people working with me. They respected me, learned from me, and helped me. And my money? More than I thought I would ever have. My restaurant made about $15,000 every month. After paying bills, workers, and other costs, I took home $6,000 every month. For the first time, I had enough money to live well. But money wasn't the best part. The best part was seeing my mom's face when she came to London. The day came. My mom came to London. As soon as she came out of the airport, I ran to her. I hugged her very tight. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "You did it, James." I took her to my restaurant. She sat at the best table. I cooked her favorite food, sancocho. She took one bite and smiled. "This is the best food I have ever tasted, son." Tears came to my eyes. She looked around at the restaurant, at my workers, at the people eating, and at the sign that said James's Kitchen. Then she said something that made my heart stop. "I always knew you could do it. I just waited for you to believe in yourself." The lesson of my journey. Now, after seeing my exciting journey and how English helped me a lot to achieve success, I want you to do the same, or even more. You can realize that English was the key to my success. So, this is what I learned about becoming fluent. If I can do it, you can too. First, speak every day, even if you make mistakes. Don't wait to be perfect. Start speaking from day one. Talk to yourself. Talk to friends. Talk to people you don't know. Just talk. Second, think in English. Don't translate. Stop translating words in your head. Look at a bananas and say bananas instead of thinking of the word in your native language. Describe all things around you in English. 3. Learn short phrases, not just words. Don't just learn go. Learn go to work, go for a walk, or go out with friends. Native speakers use short phrases, no single words. 4. Read out loud every day. Reading helps you say words better and feel more confident. Read news, books, or even social media posts for 15 minutes every day. 5. Watch movies and copy the actors. Pick a short scene. Listen to the words, pause, and say them just like the actors. This helps your speaking and pronunciation. 6. Write new words in a small notebook. When you hear a new word, write it down. Use it in a sentence 5 times that day so you don't forget it. 7. Find a friend to speak English with. Join online groups, language exchange clubs, or talk to English speakers at work. The more you talk, the better you get. 8. Challenge yourself in English. Speak only English for one day. Watch a movie with no subtitles. Write in English every day. 9. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes help you learn. Every mistake makes you better. People will not laugh at you. They respect you for trying. 10. Never give up. Learning English is like training for a sport. You will not see results in one day. But if you practice every day, you will improve. Set a goal. I will practice English for 1 hour every day for 6 months. If you keep going, amazing things will happen. My final words. If you are watching this story, I want to tell you a thing. your dreams can come true. Right now, you might feel lost. You might think you are not good enough, not talented enough, or not lucky enough. But listen, I was just like you. I had no money. I didn't know English. I didn't know what to do with my life. But I had one thing. I believed in myself. And that changed everything. If you want to speak English well, you can do it. If you want success, you can do it. If you want a better life, you can do it. But you have to start today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. One day you will look back and say, I did it. And trust me, that feeling is worth everything. So tell me, did this story motivate you? Share your dream in the comments.
Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe for more videos.